I'm Mark Gaylord. I am the Director of Business Development for EDMS Dental, the Canadian division. So for me right now, this is a real pleasure to be speaking to you on behalf of DSO Hygiene Excellence. First and foremost, I want to thank both Christine and Sarah for allowing me to share a little bit of time with you, share some of my insights and my background in our crazy world that I sometimes refer to as dental mental, but it's the chosen profession that we have, and it's what pays our bills and keeps us passionate every day. And that's truly one of the keys. There's a couple of things I want to focus on, and that is what drives us, what is our passion, how do we get to our end game, do we even know what that end game is, and really take a look at the difference between management and leadership. Because there's a very, very fine dividing line that separates both entities, both very necessary in our business for success, but both have very different components that allow us to achieve. A little background on me: I've had 20 years plus now in our crazy business. I've sat in the C-suite of a number of mid-sized DSOs here in Canada. I've also worked and lectured in the US on a number of occasions over the past couple of decades. I've held the role in a leadership position in dentistry with 15, 20, 30 clinics at my responsibility. I've been the COO of a number of these organizations, so I get the challenges you're faced with. I understand the working and the thinking behind the DSO model and how that affects us as human beings and how that affects us as business individuals on a daily basis. One of the key things we need to remember is why we're doing this. Why is it we get up in the morning to go to work? What is it we want to achieve? And where are we on that timeline? There's an old saying, we all have goals, and people are probably bored to tears and bored to death of goal setting workshops and goal setting, environments and setting goals and quarterlies and what we have to match and meet and what are those benchmarks. But keeping that in mind, it's just a measuring stick of where we are on our timeline. But a goal without a timeline attached to it is still just a dream. So the next time you sit down with any of your team members or even in your personal life and you start structuring goals, you start structuring new protocols, you start structuring new initiatives, make sure that you have a clear understanding of where it is you're going. Is it achievable, and what are my outcomes? And what am I willing to do to get to that goal and to that outcome? And what are the timelines I'm placing on it so that I can measure it to see that I'm achieving day to day to day, not just once in a while. Goals are not achieved by once in a while getting involved, once in a while playing full out. Goals in our business are achieved by taking action every single day. And that happens at a management level. Leadership has to have vision. And that's really one of the things that separates managers from leaders, not taking away from either one. But a manager, in my world, has always been a title. It's something that people aspire to, or just through tenure of the years of being in the business, just sort of move up through that chain of command because Sally or Mike or Joe or Karen have been here for 5 years, therefore now they're the office manager or they're in a leadership role that maybe they're not even suited for. So sometimes we've got to be very careful on who we put in these roles. And then we also have to know the difference between someone who can manage. Manager is somebody who can manage numbers, manage timelines, and manage expectation. A leader has to have vision, a leader has to have conviction, and a leader has to know what those outcomes are and be able to pivot at any given time to adjust the thinking of a team and have the team buy in to what it is they're trying to achieve. And that's the difference. A manager will follow a system. A leader will take you to the next level. A leader always has to be out in front. But the difference between a manager and a leader is a leader has to also have the ability to get into the weeds, get into the crowd, work with his people, identify obstacles, and be willing to figure it out in real time with the people who are involved. Sometimes when we look at managers are following structure, managers are following rules, and we all need that in our business. But true leadership comes from your core. Anybody that's out there who's a parent, by default, you become one of the greatest leaders on the planet because now you are harvesting the future of your children in your actions, in your reactions, the choices that you make. And sometimes leaders have to make very difficult choices. And in order to do that, we must be able to see better than the situation. There's an old saying that goes, you have to see things for what they are, but never worse than they are. And you've always got to be able to see, emotional intelligence dictates, you've always got to see things for better than they are. And then you've got to make it so. And you've also, like I said earlier, you've got to be willing to pivot and shift so that you can achieve the goals that you've set out for yourself. You also have to have the power of influence, because a great leader can influence people in a positive way that's not controlling, but they are in control. Because when someone appears to be in control, people will line up behind them. If someone's controlling, then you've all of a sudden got a whole different table set and you create objection and obstacle. But if you are in control, I've always said the person who is in control of the situation can control themselves. The person who's in control of themselves can control a situation. And that's where you get to your ultimate outcomes. Not being afraid to take criticism, not being afraid to be as much an ear as you are a voice. Some of the greatest leaders in the world sit and listen. They surround themselves with strong people. They surround themselves with strong managers, strong influencers, and they take that information, and again, they have to make the final decision, and they have to own that decision, but it comes from collective intelligence, and it comes from collective wisdom. A great leader is ultimately a great listener. And then you have to be able to make decisions sometimes long-term, or sometimes on the fly, and stand behind them. A great leader is willing to make mistakes. A great leader is willing to push boundaries, push limits, test people's ability, give people empowerment to do things that they never thought were possible, and stand behind their people. A great leader has to have vision beyond the day-to-day. You know, we live in a world that's a nanosecond culture where we're looking at our cell phone, and if our text doesn't send or we don't get something back, we're frustrated, we don't understand. So we have to live in that space and time, and we have to keep up with our environment. Key thing to remember is don't let your environment control you. A great leader has control over the environment. A great leader has control over themselves. They will listen to outside influence, but ultimately they're responsible and in control of the destiny of the business and the destiny of the culture. And let's talk about that for a second. Culture creates growth. A great culture will move forward. A stagnant and stale culture, and we've all been part of it at one time or another, puts a chokehold on us that prevents us from achieving the goals we want. So a great leader has to have the ability to develop a strong culture. A great leader has to have the ability to identify when that culture is fractured and know what to do to get it back on track. Because there's nothing worse than coming to work or being in an environment where people feel uncertain, unsafe, unappreciated, overlooked, taken for granted. These are things that a leader is constantly mitigating in order to build strong culture. And culture takes input. Culture's an overused word in our business and in all business, but do people really take it seriously to make sure that they're manifesting what that vision is that they have? What that mission statement on the wall behind them means? Do they live those values every day? It's one thing to say them, but a leader has to believe it and then influence the team so that they follow in step towards the goals that need to be achieved. So that's slightly what's different between a leader and a manager. A manager follows systems, a manager follows protocol, a manager keeps people identified with the task on hand and their core competencies, but a leader allows growth. A leader gives empowerment to take things to that proverbial next level. And that's what's really important as you go forward in business, is to identify where is that core leader in me. A management, like I keep saying to you, a manager's a title. Leadership is a quality, and it's something that we all possess on different levels. We could probably think of people right off the top of our head that are great leaders, that are great influencers, that can walk into a room and have great presence, and they don't even have to say anything. And those are the type of people that we want to aspire to be. I aspire to that every day. I lead a team of dozens of people, and I need to always have maybe not the right answer, but I always need to have reassurance and create certainty in my team so that we can move forward during times of like this COVID, times of obstacle, times of uncertainty. A leader must see beyond the uncertainty and always see what's good about a situation. And that defines emotional intelligence. The ability to find yourself in the middle of conflict and see what's good about things, because the bad will always be there. Turn on the news, turn on the environment, talk in a group. The bad is always there for us to consume. A great leader needs to be able to see past that, see what's good about a situation, and then move yourself towards it. So in closing, I just want to let you know, as professionals and as we go into the fourth quarter of 2020 and into a brand new year, I want you to step up, find your inner leader, and focus on what you want to achieve in the next 90 days, and then the first quarter and the second quarter. Set timelines so these dreams are actual goals that you're tracking, and they're not once in a while things. These are things that you have to do consistently on an ongoing basis. Listen. The key to great leadership is to become a great leader. I'm at your disposal if you ever want to chat. I can't wait to get back down to the United States so I can do these seminars and meet you in person one-on-one. I can't wait for that to happen, for our world to open up again. But until then, live strong, always live with passion, and thank you, DSO Hygiene Excellence. I'm Mark Garrett. Have an awesome day.